Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the second video in the Japji Sahib series. If you have listened to the videos before, then you would have been acquainted with the teachings of the Mool Mantra, which is the root essence of Sikh spirituality, the teachings of Guru Nanak, which focus on the absolute nature of reality. Now we move on to the first verse of the Japji. The word used for verse in Gurbani is Pauri, and there are a multiplicity of ways that we can understand or interpret this singular word, but traditionally it has been understood to mean step, because each conscious movement within one's spirituality is a step towards the actualization and fruition of that teaching. And in fact, this is the quintessence of the first verse of Japji. A very important question is asked. Give sachiara hoiye, give kure tutte paal, hukum rajai chalana nanak likhya naal. Before we move on to the recitation of the Pauri and its translation, it's important to take into mind how important this Pauri is. How important this Pauri is in regards to the question it asks us. Now, a Sikh is someone who bears a singular most responsibility, and that is the embodiment and actualization of the Guru's teachings through the process of humility, through the process of being a humble learner. When one surrenders in this world and they take to the position of learning, in this state of humility they are enabled to observe, and in that observation they are enabled to perceive the truth that is spoken by the Guru. They are enabled to embody the truth which is taught by the Guru. So this question, give sachiara hoiye, give kure tutte paal, and its answer, hukum rajai chalana nanak likhya naal, is the focus of this Pauri, of this verse. Give sachiara hoiye. How do we come to the embodiment, to the actualization of truth? Give kure tutte paal. How is the wool of our own ignorance, of our own transgressions broken? Kura refers to dirt, it refers to filth, it refers to rubbish. A wool of rubbish, a wool of filth, a wool of that which is unclean, refers to the wool of ignorance that we place up around ourselves, preventing us from perceiving, embodying, and actualizing the truth. Now this is where we move to the Pauri, but before we do, it's important to understand, what is truth? What is true? This is where we move back towards the Mool Mantra. Each and every one of the verses of Japji refer back to the Mool Mantra. each and every aspect of Gurbani only expands upon the Mool Mantra, which itself is an expansion of the Bij Mantra Satnam, which itself is an expansion of Ik Oankar. These are the teachings that have been passed down from the elders of the Khalsa in the way that they understand what Japji is. Now, in regards to the truth is that which is unchangeable. By its very virtue and nature, it does not change, it does not move. If it changed in state, it could no longer be true. Guru Nanak teaches us that the truth is the primal sound, the primordial vibration, which is the root of all things, the source of phenomena itself. This primal vibration is the Absolute, the Godhead. This primordial harmony, the primal sound, Om, is the root essence of all things. It is the truth. It is the primal consciousness which sources all that is life, all that is its preservation, and its dissolving end, its dissemblance. So in the face of that, the question is asked, how do we embody that truth? And the answer is given, Hukum Rajai Chalana Nanak Likhya Naal. We will move into that discussion of what hukum is after having recited this first verse of Japji, and then breaking it down. But I want you to remember that second part of the question, the answer as to what hukum is. Because many people have many ideas based upon their understanding. And as Guru Gobind Singh himself says in the Jopai, Aap apni budh hai jeti, barnat pin pin tuhiteti, that everybody in accordance with their intelligence, in accordance with their understanding, describes or attempts to describe the Absolute in a multiplicity of ways. So in the midst of that, no interpretation is in itself absolute. We must remember that and respect the multiplicity of interpretations that are available. But also remember that when going through the process of receiving the teachings from Gurbani, we must be humble to not place our own interpretive structures on Gurbani, but allow the Guru to speak to us, which is the space, place and seat of being a humble learner, which is precisely what this first step, this first Pauri, is all contemplating. Satnam. So now we will recite this first Pauri. Sochai soch na hovai, jai sochi lakhwar, chupai chup na hovai, jai lai raha livatar, bhukhya bhukh na utri, jai panna purya par, sahas syan pa lakh hoye, ता एक ना चलै नाल, किव सचियारा हुईयै, किव कूरै टुटै पाल, हुक्म रजाई चलना, नानक लिखिया नाल. Satguru Nanak Maharaj starts the discussion of what Japji is through contemplating the quintessence of spirituality itself. Now, the context of the Japji Sahib, in accordance with what has been revealed by the ancestors of the Khalsa, the elders of the Khalsa, as well as what we find in the Janam Sakhi materials, which are the life stories of Guru Nanak, we find a discourse on the origins of Japji as a conversation, as a goshti between the Siddhanath yogis and Guru Nanak. And in accordance with the multiplicity of commentaries which are available, a question is asked by the Siddhas as to how the truth of spirituality can be embodied. At that time, in the context of the subcontinent of India, in the vast region, there are a multiplicity of ways wherein which different individuals expressed their love for spirituality, or their attempts to embody spirituality. A multiplicity of ways that may have had beautiful intentions to begin with, but over time began to lead people astray. So it's in the midst of this that Guru Nanak resounds with this beautiful song about the embodiment of truth. Soche soch na hovei, je sochi lakhwar. Truth cannot be embodied by bathing or attempting to purify one's mind through the act of bathing, even if one were to bathe 1,000-fold. There are others who like to interpret this line as well to refer to the idea that God could not be reduced to thought if one were to think 1,000 times. Either way, it is to be understood that if we attempt through finite actions to reduce the infinite to thought, or to wash away our transgressions by merely bathing in water, these efforts are futile, as they do not bring us into the experience or actualization of truth, but merely move us further and further into mind-centrism. And mind-centrism is the very thing that the Guru has come to supplant us from. We call this in Gurmat Manmat. Manmat is mind-centrism. It's the space wherein which ego dominates. Here the Guru is teaching very clearly that such actions as bathing or thinking do not allow us to experience the truth. Now we move on to the second aspect of the body. Chuppe chupp na hovei, je lai raha livtar. If one was to sit in silent contemplation where they do not move their mouth or their tongue, where they refuse to speak, their mind remains ever awake. Their mind is not silenced in the process. Many had gone to the Ganga to bathe, to the sacred rivers to bathe, to find purity, to find respite, to cool the anguish of their hearts. Many had gone and performed silent fasts, the Maunavrata, to attempt to quieten their minds. Neither are of avail, for neither find good measure in allowing us to embody the truth or actualize the truth. So if bathing or remaining silent does not bring us to the actualization of truth, we need to continue to remember that question: what does? We move on to the third aspect. Bhukhya bhukh na uttari, jai panna puriya pahar. There was another tradition in India at the time that believed food to be the ultimate experience. An old Vedic religion wherein which the pastime was a contemplation of food and the idea of a heavenly end, an eternal banquet. This is one way of interpreting the verse, and we will go into several others shortly. Now, the hunger of they who are hungry cannot be appeased, even if all the goods of the world were tied up and presented before them. This is the first aspect. The second aspect is this: that those who are stuck in the states of materialism attempt to obtain and obtain and obtain to appease their need for wanting. But they find no rest. The vacuum within them is not filled, and they are not able to actualize the truth that they seek. Therefore, the hunger of the hungry, the want for wanting, cannot be appeased, even if all the worldly goods were bound and presented before such an individual. There are those who attempted to actualize truth through the obtaining of physical things. All that is physical is subject to deterioration. It is inherently transient and will perish. It cannot be taken with you. Therefore, this life which has been granted for the actualization of truth, for the embodiment of truth, if it is to be a life lived in the virtue of such truth, must be one in which material gain, material wealth, is not something that is chased after, but instead one that is respected in its rightful place. Finally, we come to the last aspect of these classifications. Sahas syan palak hohe ta ik na challe naal. Sahas means countless. Syanapa means both intelligence and seniority. Lakh is 1,000, and ta ik na chale naal refers to the fact that even these things cannot carry on with oneself. So this verse refers to this very, very exact principle. There were many in the subcontinent at the time who believed that the actualization of truth could only come through reading, through the pretext of Jnana Yoga alone. That is, the gaining of intelligence, the expansion of one's intelligence as a means to attain the Godhead, as a means to actualize truth. One can read thousands of books. One can gain an intelligence which is 1,000-fold in its nature. But not one iota of that will travel with you in your next lifetime, in your next embodiment, in your next incarnation, or even better still, at that moment of death, where your 5 senses perish, as the 5 elements that form this body collapse upon themselves, as Gurbani describes. Neither will there be sight, neither will there be the ability to hear, taste, touch, feel. Where then is the intelligence that was acquired from 1,000 books? Where then is that intelligence that one spent 1,000 lifetimes learning from 1,000 elders, so on? This emphasis of 1,000, just to emphasize the fact that the truth does not come from expanding one's intelligence, one's intellectual capacity. The truth is far more deeper. Sahas Syanapala Kohe. One's seniority, one's intelligence can be 1,000-fold in its degree. Ta ikna chale naal. But not one aspect of that will travel with you in the end. So being knowledgeable is not the way. So finally we come to the closing through the question. The question, it is believed, was asked by the Siddhas, who, having received this teaching from Guru Nanak, then exclaim, "Give satyara hoiye, give kure tutte pal." How do we actualize that truth? How do we actualize the truth, embody the truth? How do we become truthful? How is the wool of our ignorance destroyed? And Guru Nanak replies, "Hukum rajayi chalna, Nanak likhya naal." Now, hukum is a very deep and beautiful teaching, and unfortunately, this video doesn't carry on to the second verse. Bearing in mind, though, that hukum, in its depth, refers to the flow of nature. Hukum is synonymous with Naam. It is the truth. And so Guru Nanak says here that one must walk, one must flow in the harmonic frequency of hukum. Hukum rajayi chalna. One must walk in accordance with hukum. Nanak likhya naal. Guru Nanak says, it has been written so. This is the way that has been contemplated by the enlightened beings for eons. This is the only way to actualize the truth. So what is hukum? What is hukum? That we resonate with it in this way, that we can walk in it, that we can embody it, that we can actualize it. As I said, it is naam, and naam refers to the name of the Godhead, and on a deeper level, the frequency of the Absolute, the primal sound. At the beginning of creation, at the very beginning, before time existed, the Absolute, from a state of emptiness, expressed itself as the primal sound, which was ever and always present. Everything is therefore substantially one in the nature of this primal harmony. And this primal harmony is the very root essence of all that is. Therefore, because everything is inherently one in the quintessence, in the essence of hukum, the only way to actualize truth, to embody truth, to be truthful, is to live in accordance with that primal sound, to live in the harmonic reality of that primal reality. This is done through the teachings of Gurmat. This is done through the instruction of the Guru, in the obtaining of Naam, and on the actualization of the living, speaking, serving, an ultimate embodiment of Japji. This is why it's the first Bani in the Nitnem that has been given to the Khalsa to recite every morning, to contemplate that journey of embodiment, so that the sadhana of life, the Nitnem of life, can be imbued with the colour of the Guru's teaching. Here we come to a close with the contemplation and rough translation on the teaching of the first verse of Japji that was given by Guru Nanak. I humbly ask for forgiveness in anything that has been said that is unagreeable to others. I ask for the blessings and upliftment of all in the name of Guru Nanak. May the suffering and anguish from people's hearts scatter away in face of the embodiment of truth, in face of the primal sound, which is the root, essence and cause of all things. Blessings and love to all. Satnam. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
सोचा सोच न होवई जे सोची लखवार, चुपै चुप न होवई जे लाए रहा निवतार, भुखिया भुख न उतरी जे बन्ना पुरियां पार, सह सियाणपा लख होए ता इक ना चलै नाल, किव सचियारा होइयै किव कूड़ै टुटै पाल, हुक्म रजाई चलना नानक लिखिया नाल।